Hey guys, I'm Zepherus, and in this video I will be telling you all about Operation Mincemeat. But first, Nazis. In 1943, the Axis powers were occupying pretty much all of Europe, and the Allies were on a back foot and desperately looking for a foothold. The Axis was at its peak, and the infamous D-Day was over a year and a half away. So the Allied powers, UK, US, Canada, France and the Soviet Union in no particular order, had to invade somewhere to create a second front in Europe, the first being in the east with the Soviet Union. So where better than the Mediterranean? After all, we held Malta and most of Libya and Egypt, and Britain is known for its navy. I know this is a bit weird, but bear with me. Also, I'm oversimplifying World War II, so yeah, if you want you can look into a more detailed and ultimately longer retelling. I'm shortening it because we're focusing on something different. So, now the Mediterranean has many islands, but Sicily was chosen due to its proximity to Italy, an easy land route to Germany. The Axis powers, Germany, Italy, Japan in no particular order, knew this too. So somehow, the Allies had to dissuade them, it was happening there, and persuade them to prepare for an invasion somewhere else. Namely, Sardinia and Greece. But how? Disinformation, that's how. Oh, and I haven't forgotten about Operation Mincemeat, I'm getting to it. Disinformation is an interesting tactic where deliberately incorrect or misleading information is spread to mislead the enemy into doing something stupid. This was first used around the time of the Napoleonic Wars, but the best example is indeed Operation Mincemeat. Told you. So when the task with convincing Hitler and the Axis powers of doing something they thought was quite unlikely, they went the extra mile. They faked an entire man's life. Yeah, that is going the extra mile. So here's the plan. A drowned officer, in quotes, would washed up on the Axis coast containing documents saying the invasion was going to happen in Greece and Sardinia. Cunning but tricky. You'd need to be extremely convincing, otherwise millions might die, and the war might even be lost. So this fake officer, known as Major William Martin, or Bill to his non-existent friends, had to have more than just the vital documents. To avoid suspicion, he had to have a social life, friends, and family. In the bag containing the fake documents were also added a letter from his pompous father, and a letter from Lloyd's Bank with regard to a small debt. As well as this, general human litter was reproduced, such as a receipt from the Naval and Military Club, a bus ticket, and a receipt for a new shirt. All of this was made sure to corroborate with each other, as the Major was supposed to leave England around the 24th of April 1943, and then flown and then crashed via plane into the sea near to the planned beach. But that wasn't all. Major Bill Martin needed a girlfriend. So, one was created. She was called Pam, and letters from her, as well as a photo, were also put in the bag. Interestingly enough, this photo was actually of Nancy Jean Leslie, a clerk for MI5, whom unfortunately died in 2012. As well as this, a receipt for a diamond ring, purchased on the 19th, was included, 5 days before his departure. Despite its incorrectness, it is kind of a little depressing. But all of this fabrication is meaningless without a physical body, a dead corpse to call Major. So let us rewind 4 months, and in London, on the 24th of January 1943, a poor and homeless man with no friends, no family, eats rat poison near King's Cross Station. We don't know whether this is accidental or an attempted suicide, but he is soon found and moved to St Pancras Hospital. This man, called Glyndon Michael, dies 2 days later of the poisoning, which turns out to be highly undetectable on post-mortems. You can see where this is going, can't you? While looking for a cadaver with no relations or friends, as they would either refuse or draw attention to a secret plan, they stumbled across Glyndon Michael's body. He was perfect for the job. His body was donated by the hospital on the condition that his identity was never revealed, and dressed up in the appropriate attire for a major in the army. However, his ID card, which all majors had, needed his photo. A photo of him alive. Which, of course, no one had. What they did have was a huge amount of luck. Oh, and an officer that looked exactly like him. That too. Anyway, once his backstory was built and corroborated, Major Bill Martin could go on his first and final mission into enemy territory. The body was sealed in an oxygen-deprived capsule in order to preserve it, and transported onto the submarine HMS Seraph on the 19th of April 1943. Destination? The small town of Huelva on the southwest coast of Spain. Why? Well, MI5 knew this to be the place of the location of operatives of Germany's own secret service. This way, MI5 knew that any information harvested would inevitably make its way to Hitler. In the morning of the 30th of April, the submarine surfaced. The body was unsealed and taken up on deck, whereupon it was carefully as possible lowered into the sea, along with a bag that had been attached via a chain to the corpse's belt. Operation Mincemeat was go. The body as planned washed up on the beach only a few hours later, whereupon it was discovered by a rather surprised fisherman, who alerted the authorities. The body was taken for a post-mortem, where Dr. Eduardo D'Antonio concluded that the man had died from drowning, thereby solidifying the fake story. The body of Major William Martin was buried in the local graveyard, with full military honours, despite him actually being a civilian. There he lies to this day, over 70 years later. Anyway, the letter was also analysed, and before long, local operatives were made aware. The plans for invasion of Sardinia and Greece slowly trickled up the chain of command. Now, if you were MI5, you'd think that was all you could do, right? I mean, it's just a matter of waiting. But no, they had the fictional major published in the list of the missing/dead in the Times newspaper, and sent messages over the wireless asking where the secret documents had gone to, as any reasonable country would. Meanwhile, this information had reached the very top. Mussolini, the Prime Minister of Italy, and Hitler's ally doubted the documents, as he knew Sicily would probably be the main invasion point. In addition, Goebbels, the chief Nazi for propaganda, also doubted the solidarity of the plans. But the Führer, Adolf Hitler, was extremely confident in their validity and, being rather strong in his beliefs, didn't think about it from any other perspective. Hitler, and therefore the Nazi Germany, had been convinced. Operation Mincemeat was a success. The major Axis forces were diverted to Sardinia and Greece, waiting for an invasion that would never come. The Allies successfully invaded Sicily rather quite quickly, opening back up the Mediterranean for shipping, and a land route all the way to Berlin. Skip forward 55 years later, and finally the UK government announced the real identity of the man who saved many lives and prevented many more from death. An engraving of Major Martin's headstone in Huelva was added, reading, Glyndere Michael, served as Major William Martin, RM. In addition to this, a memorial to this homeless man whom saved so many lives after his death was erected in his hometown of Abergwynedd in Wales. It is titled, The Man Who Never Was. I've been Zepherus, and thank you for watching.